All right, the talk of the town when it comes to car conversations and the car market is tariffs. And will they affect the price of American cars or all cars in America? The big question that we want to ask is, will tariffs affect the classic car market? So we're going to get into that a little bit. Plus, we're going to go over our predictions from the last episode, and we're going to make some all new predictions. This is Bid Nerds. The bidding starts now. Bid Nerds is your YouTube car game show. Hey guys, we are getting to it. What's up, everybody? My name is John Polnik, and this is Bid Nerds, your nerd out on the most interesting cars from all the automotive enthusiast auction sites. My name is John Polnik. We are coming to you live from the Container Park in downtown Las Vegas, as well as my partner over there, right next to me. He's not in Las Vegas. He's in San Francisco. What's up, Michael Deeb? How you doing?
Hey, buddy. So I got to go to a Christmas party last night at a place called the Candy Store, which is down by the San Francisco airport. A bunch of septuagenarians got together and started a car club called the Candy Store. They took an old Packard building from the 20s, speaking of brick, beautiful architecture. And if you have a historically important car, they invite you to be part of the club, and they park the cars in there. And the guy who runs it is a guy named Randy Hill that knew my dad. Randy's been inviting me for years. Esther and I went. It's the first time I've attended the Candy Store Christmas party, and it was really fun. We had a good time last night. I sat at a table telling stories, and two couples sitting across the table were like, "We knew your father," and it was really fun for me, JP. So it's a bunch of people who I've never met suddenly started telling me stories about my dad and his old restaurant. So I had a wonderful Christmas car night last night, and I'm just so happy to be here and feeling the Christmas spirit. So JP, let's dive in, man. I couldn't be more excited to do the show than I am right now. It was really fun.
Michael Deeb is ready to go. I was struggling to get here on time, and look at that, we were on time.
You did it.
I was across the street at Club Shine. Shout out to our good friend Julie Kane at Godden Porsche.
What's up, Julie?
Every year, she runs an event called Club Shine for I don't know how to describe it. The specials for kids and adults who have never been to a nightclub. It's just great. It's just a really cool event for the specials, and it's Julie and a bunch of volunteers that put this together and put an amazing event together. So
Julie Kane puts her heart and soul into that, and the photos and the stories are amazing. If you have to follow her or Godden or grant a gift online, you occasionally get some snippets of what she does and what she's up to. I know exactly what you're talking about, JP, and God bless Julie Kane. She is an amazing human being. That's awesome.
Very, very good stuff. All right, guys, let's get into it. Tonight we are talking, I wanted to start off the show by talking about tariffs. That is tariffs. That's so exciting, I know. I mean, this is a nerd show, right? And
yeah. Are we going to ring the Liberty Bell too? What's going on, man?
Yeah, I mean, I promise we won't get too into politics, but I do want to talk about what tariffs are, what they mean, and I want to kind of get I want to get the nerd herd's opinion on what we think that's going to do to the market, because I think it's going to affect how we make our bids here going into 2025. A tariff is basically a tax on import goods, or as some people say, yeah. So, it's come up a lot with the incoming administration. They want to put a lot of tariffs on specifically Chinese products. And in the new car market, that's a big deal, right? Because what a tariff really essentially is it's a reverse subsidy for American companies. So for the American car companies who are making whatever cars they're having a hard time competing with less expensive cars coming from places like
overseas.
In Germany and Japan and stuff. Now, typically
Korea,
typically cars coming from places like Germany or China, or not China, but Germany or Japan, those cars, they sell their cars to the American market, and then they have to compete with American cars here. The difference of what's going on right now, everyone says that at least in the new car market, that if they put tariffs on import cars, that's going to cause prices to go up. That's meaning that if you increase the cost to the supplier, that they're going to automatically pass that price or that increase in their cost on to the consumers. Now, that is the prevailing wisdom, but I'm here to say, guys, that is just straight up misinformation. That is not at all how tariffs work. And this is not me saying that tariffs are a good thing. This is not or a bad thing, really. I'm not making a value judgment whether tariffs are good or bad. But this idea that prices are a first order effect from tariffs is not at all true. When a supplier, when their costs go up, they don't automatically raise their prices, their retail prices. For example, if you have something like, Porsche is a great example, right? Porsches are built in Germany by Porsche AG. Porsche AG is a different company from Porsche North America. So when Porsche AG builds a Porsche, say a Macan, right? They ship it over here to America. Porsche of North America pays Porsche AG for that Macan. It is Porsche North America that pays that tariff to import that Macan into the market. Now, it is up to Porsche North America to then say to their dealer group, the retailers, so you've got producer, you've got wholesaler, and then importer. You've got retailer, right?
Yeah.
So downstream, the Porsche dealership down the street from you is the retailer. So now the Porsche dealership has to pay more, ostensibly, for this car because the Porsche wholesaler is saying, well, our price went up 20%, so do you want this Macan on your floor? There are two drivers when it comes to retail prices, and cost to the supplier is not one of them. It is a second or third order, it has a second or third order effect, but the only two factors that affect retail price when it comes to market economies like ours, I'm not saying free market, I'm just saying market economies in general, are supply and demand. When supply goes up, you've got those two things, supply and demand. When supply goes up, price goes down. When demand goes up, that's usually because supply has gone down, right? So the intersection of those two relationships on a graph is what we call equilibrium. So if you arbitrarily increase the price of any good, what you're going to automatically do is lower the demand. You guys following along? I know this is just some crazy econ.
No, keep going. You're doing good.
Stuff, right?
Let go of the disclaimer and keep going because you're doing a good job. We're following.
If you increase the price, you will lower demand. So if you add a tariff to an import product, it is then up to the seller of that good to determine whether or not they want to raise the price to cover the cost or to cover that increase in their costs. Just like if fuel prices went up and it cost them a bunch more money to get the car or the good across the ocean. If shipping prices went up, then they would have to determine whether or not it was worth it or not to increase the price. If these companies like Porsche were to, let's say the tariff was 20%, and I'm not saying that's what the percent is, but let's just say it was, so that's easier for us to kind of do the math. If the retail seller passes on that cost to the consumer and raise their price by 20%, that's a very big increase in price, and that will affect the demand. There is a term that is used to determine how much that decrease in demand will happen, and that term is called elasticity. So a product like, let's say, gasoline or eggs is very inelastic. That means you can increase the price. You could double the price of gasoline right now to the consumer, and demand isn't going to go down at all, right? People will still pay it. Unfortunately, they won't like it, but they will still pay it because the price is very inelastic when it comes to, the price is elastic when it comes to
demand.
Yeah. So a car, on the other hand, is very elastic, right? You increase the price just a little bit, and that will drastically increase the demand. So what a tariff effectively does is gives the American manufacturers a subsidy, or what you could call a market advantage that the imports won't have. So the question then becomes, what does the American car producer do with that advantage? Do they pocket because basically they'll have more supply, right? But their competitors' supply will go down, which will cause their demand to go up, but they won't be able to meet that supply, or will they? Because at some point the American cars will be available, and they're more attractive because they're much less. Their price is much lower. So this gets very, very confusing. But I just really wanted to kind of give that crazy lecture just to impart upon everyone that import tariffs do not automatically mean increase in prices. They can, but that depends on the elasticity of the products. It's kind of like right now. Oh, so go ahead. Go ahead.
The relevance to this conversation, JP, is because Trump and his new administration that's going to be here in the next 8 to 10 weeks, he's promising this. He's talking about it, and this guy, like nobody thinks he's bluffing, right? Like we're expecting this to be a legitimate thing, and it could. Like obviously he's gunning for China, but if he does it, he might spray it over all imports to stimulate the Americans, present them with that advantage. It could hit the European cars too. Even though Europe's not really our enemy.
We start getting into whether or not it's a good idea. That's a different conversation. But because specifically like with EVs, right? With China, right? There are no Chinese cars in America.
No ICE cars. Yeah.
And if you look at what happened to the American car manufacturers in the 70s and 80s, the Germans and the Japanese ate their lunch, because what they were able to do is they were able to put inexpensive, high-quality vehicles into the American market. The American manufacturers, Detroit, they didn't see the Japanese and the German cars as a threat. And then you had something called the fuel shortage of the 70s, right? Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden people wanted cars that had good fuel economy, right? People wouldn't consider Japanese cars in the 70s because they thought that they were low quality. Well, lo and behold, they're like, well, okay, I'm going to buy one of these Volkswagen Beetles, or I'm going to buy a Honda Civic CVCC because I can't afford to put gas in my big V8 gas guzzler. And they found out that these cars are actually pretty good. So those foreign cars were able to get a foothold into the American market and grow their market. And then the American cars failed to adapt because of hubris, and the rest is history. The difference between that scenario and what's going on now in, say, China is that unlike Japan and Germany in the 70s and 80s, China's market is not a market economy. It is a command economy. So when a company in China like Geary, right, the company that makes the electric cars, or was it BYE? They make electric cars that are just like Teslas. I mean, they look like Teslas, they drive like Teslas, but China can make them for literally half the price because the Chinese government is subsidizing that company. So they are taking money, they are taking tax money from their economy and they're subsidizing it to a specific company like BYE, so they can afford to charge a very low price for their cars. So will they be able to, even BYE could afford to take a 20% or even 100% tariff and still sell cars that are the same price as Teslas here. Whew. So this stuff gets really, really, really gritty. And, again, this is all new car stuff. How does this affect our classic cars? And that's kind of what I think is interesting, because I think what'll happen is that I frankly think that this is just going to increase demand for classic cars. I think that this is going to increase people going, I don't want to deal with all this stuff. I just want to keep the car I have. But what do you guys think of what tariffs will do to not only the car market, but the classic car market in the future, in the coming very short months? I'm very curious to see what the Nerd Herd has to think about it. Let's get to, now we made a bunch of predictions on cars on the last episode. Tariffs have not hit yet. But let's get into the results of those auctions and see if maybe we can work the tariff idea into the future and into our analysis of these products. So what was the first car on the list, Michael Deeb?
All right, JP, we're going to check back on our very luxurious Italian car, a 2024 Ferrari Purosangue. I think I'm saying that correctly, but it's a guess. JP, the seller is Wob out of Newbury Park, California. The car in question was a $545,000 MSRP car that is now showing 919 miles. John, this car sold on Bring a Trailer back in late November, 11/26/24. This car sold for $690,000 on BAT with these same assets and by the same seller. But the buyer did not perform. He did not transact at that price. So the car came right back to market just a couple of weeks later with the exact same assets, same odometer, same seller. And we wondered, JP, where would this car hammer second time around? This is usually, I don't want to say the kiss of death, but like nobody thinks that this car is going to ring 690 again. It's just that the odds are stacked against you. So, John, with that in mind, nice car, one of the first ones to come to market in the secondary market in the United States. I said the hammer would be $650,000. JP, you actually went over the original hammer price from November and give us a bid of $695,000. And Rami, our buddy Rami Mirza, was in studio with JP on our last episode. Rami said he liked the car, but he wouldn't buy one. He said $630,000 is the hammer. According to classic.com, JP, the secondary market for these cars should just be $580,000. John, our car did pretty well. It hammered for $645,000. However, it failed to sell at that number on 17 bids. John, I'm going to give you this. This is my take on this. One, I won that one. I missed it by $5,000. I almost had a Yahtzee.
That was really close. Considering
it was pretty good.
Big a number that was. Yeah,
it was pretty good. But JP, here's the thing: we know that the guy paid $545, and we know that everybody in America pays MSRP for a Ferrari. There are no discounts. There are no markups. Ferrari Cars North America (FCNA) polices this, and it's very strict. So all of their clients pay the same price for new cars. So at $645,000, I think it was fool's gold when you were at 690. You're thinking, okay, I'm going to get 150 over. You come back to market, you have to reset your expectations. You got exactly $100,000 over MSRP. You should have taken the money. Now this guy's got a firm grip on a car that's failed to sell twice on Bring a Trailer. That car is not going anywhere, and you just walked away from $100,000 in equity. I think that's a huge mistake by the seller and an unfortunate, whiff by Wob not controlling their client to take that number. That to me should have been a winning bid, and it wasn't. And I think that my take is that you should have punted. You should have got rid of that car, and now you're ruined. So big mistake. Should have sold it. Where are you at, JP, with that result?
Yeah, unless the guy actually wanted the car, which I don't know why. That just doesn't make sense. Where in the world does this person think he's going to get more money for it? If it were a classic Ferrari, you could say, all right, well, we'll wait till, what is the Amelia Island or some of the big auctions that are coming up, maybe even Barrett Jackson coming up here in January. But I just don't see a modern Ferrari SUV bringing any more money than that. Or maybe it does. I don't know. Maybe it brings another 10 or 15 or even $20,000 than that. But at that point, you could have. That's interest that you could have gotten on that cash. Why wouldn't you take the short money to think that they're going to make? What does this seller think this car is worth? Do you think? What do you think their actual number in their head was?
I think they were. I think they were hunting for that 150 over MSRP, which is where they were last month. But when you fail to transact and your car, your signature car in this like crazy blue color comes right back to market with the same assets, you have to reset your expectations. And for Wob to not control their client and say, hey, if we get to 100 over, we're letting this car go. And they got to 100 over and they held on to the car. That's a whiff. That's a huge mistake. They should have taken it.
Yeah, and boy, really great assets on this car. Wob spent there's a lot of effort to present this car. So I feel bad for Wob. I don't know how Wob's business model works. I don't know if they charge their sellers a fee to present the car regardless of whether or not
10%.
it sells.
I'm sure it's 10%.
But just on the sale, or do you think they charge up front for
I think on the Hammer with like a minimum of like, who knows, like maybe the minimum is like $5,000 on anything under $50,000, and then 10% on anything over that, and that's what I assume it is. It's what a lot of the big brick and mortar places are charging is 10%. By the way, call me, I'll do it for you for $5. But there you go. I think that's the gist of it. So again, on a car like this, they lost out on $60,000, or whatever. I mean, and maybe there's a discounted rate, over $200,000, but still that's a lot of money to say no to. They should have taken the deal.
Shout out to Ben getting a Yahtzee in the Nerd Herd.
Good job, Ben.
The Nerd Herd always nails it. Come on.
Killing it.
You guys are so much better than us. Hey, speaking of the Nerd Herd, you guys rock. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. A lot of you hanging out tonight on a Sunday night, so we appreciate you hanging out with us. This is a lot of fun because of you guys. All right, we made some more predictions. What else is on the list, Michael Deeb? What's next?
All right, JP, we are going to check in on Jerry Seinfeld's 2014 Porsche 911 50th anniversary Turbo S Coupe, a one-of-one with JS, monogrammed into the carbon fiber on the dashboard. It was a very interesting conversation we had about this car between you and Rami, and I really enjoyed bearing witness to it. And essentially, to paraphrase what you guys distilled from looking at this car is, if you're Jerry Seinfeld and the Porsche factory will make almost anything for you, why don't you get this car with a stick? And I thought that was a hell of a take. Like, if you got the flex, then flex. Okay, great, you got the anniversary model, but on a model that's way up market. And that's really cool. And he drove it. He put 3,700 miles on the car. And God bless him for that. But if those guys will jump, if you say, how high, Jerry, do you want us to jump? How high should have been to stick a 6-speed in this car? And that would have been awesome. Even if you would have just done the broke ass 7-speed, this car would be a whole lot more fun with 3 pedals. And by the way, fast forward to 992 and Porsche is producing that car, rear wheel drive, called the Sport Classic. So they could have done it. But that was a very interesting take. But this car, in my opinion, is still pretty special. I think, like me, a lot of people didn't know this car even existed until it came to market. JP, I like the car. I'm a big fan of that colorway on the 50th anniversary when you get just the sort of GTS spec. But this car with his name attached, JP, I thought this car was going to rock the bank. So my number was 450,000. You were a little more bearish on this one. You took the under at just $399,100. And Rami was just over you at 410. Classic.com says a used Turbo S from 2014 is just a $124,000 car. But again, this is a one-of-one colorway, and it belonged to Jerry, Mr. Porsche brand ambassador ourselves. JP, the car sold for $435,000 on a whopping 52 bids. So that's all the money for that car. And again, I was the closest. I did pretty good on that one. I'm curious to see what Randy says, if anybody got a little closer to me. I'm sure they did. P997 was at 425, so he's 10 grand off. Dave Yu was at 425. Oh, Brian, there you go. Brian got a Yahtzee at 435.
Oh, there's a Yahtzee.
Way to go, Brian. Brian got a Yahtzee. So JP, $435,000 for Jerry's one-off car. My question to you is this: are you of the opinion that somebody overpaid for that car?
What do you think? Apparently, okay, here's the big question. Ken Block's car didn't really bring a big premium when we covered that Subaru.
Didn't even touch 100, I think. It was like 85 and stalled out. And we all thought it was going to break the bank.
Is that because he's dead? Would his car bring more money if he were still alive? And what will happen to Jerry's cars when he eventually passes? Do we think that will bring more money or less? I'm always surprised when people pay more money for a celebrity car. I don't get it. That doesn't appeal to me at all. But apparently it does. This is so Porsche PCA to me that they would be excited about having Jerry Seinfeld's mark on this thing. I would say just buy a turbo that looks just like it and then get 2 or 3 other cars. All right.
Right?
What do you guys
Yeah.
think of the results of Jerry Seinfeld's Turbo 991? Let us know in the comments, and let's move on to the next car on the list. What do we got, Michael Deeb?
JP, perhaps my favorite moment of tonight's show. We circle back to the 2007 Porsche 997 Turbo with a 6-speed that's on PCAR market. What could go wrong? Oh, wait, somebody ruined this car at Liberty Walk by making a wide body. And yes, by the way, I totally missed that they did replace the turbo. So this car does have more punch. But I don't believe, first of all, I've never heard of Liberty Walk. I don't like the way this wide body looks. The wheels are terrible. Where'd the wing go? And and I just think this car is a joke. We would all agree that an 18,000 mile 07 997 turbo with a 6-speed would be a 6-figure combination. Something in the 110 to 115, maybe even $120,000 if it's in nice condition and triple black and low miles. But with this Liberty Walk wide body kit and all the modifications, you basically detracted value from the car. I hated the car, and you and Rami laughed at me. But it turns out, JP, I wasn't alone. So here we go. JP, again, this should have been a $100,000 plus car. I thought the car would ring the bell at 86 grand on PCAR market. You took the over at 90,997, and Rami went further over you all the way up to $97,000. So here's where it breaks down, JP. Our car hammered on PCAR market for just $75,500 on only 2 bids. Let's just hammer that home. 2 bids. And it remains available for you and Rami to fight over in the deal tank for a conversation that starts at $130,000, which is ludicrous. The car is not worth that. I don't even think it's worth 100. I might confess that it's probably worth more than 75. This could truly be an $85,000, $90,000 car. But you have to understand that most modifications on most cars ruin the value. Oftentimes we see a set of Bilsteins and an air filter or FabSpeed exhaust bring up the value of your used 911. But this car has been hacked up. And again, before I found out it had turbos, I thought this car was as you know, it was like a poor man's RWB. Turns out it does have a little bit of grunt, and you know, maybe you could change the wheels and make this car a little nicer, but I'm not seeing it, and apparently the public agreed with me. 2 bids, JP, 75.5. The first bid, by the way, was $75,000. He got 1 bid, $500 over that, and then the bidding stopped, and it's in the deal tank for another, I can't even do the math, like $55,000. Are you crazy? They're never going to get that. Like, it's just a joke. I'm still laughing. So, JP, help us unpack more of this result. What do you think, since you, I don't know, I'm not saying you like the car, but you believed in it more than I did.
I do like the car, actually. I think it's pretty awesome. Yeah. But it's on PCAR market. You're sitting here like dunking like that has it. It's like if this car were a BAT, it would have found the people that do like Liberty Walk stuff. I think Liberty Walk is little played, but at the same time, there are people that love this stuff. If this car were at SEMA, it would have a crowd around it. It probably was at SEMA, honestly. I'm with you. I would prefer a stock one, but I do kind of like something. I like the sense of occasion that this car kind of has, whereas a standard 997 really doesn't stand out at all. I don't like the wheels. I kind of like the kind of big Fook looking kind of things. I don't know. It's not the greatest. And yes, I do agree with you though that the mods ultimately hurt the value. Like I said on the last episode, if this thing were stock at 19,000 miles, you'd be looking at $130,000. But I do think this is a $100,000 car. I think this is a $90,000 to $105,000 car, just because of the miles alone. I mean, this car would just, even if for somebody to just run it as a race car and put different wheels on it.
I will say that the reason why this car is not on Bring a Trailer is that no one at Bring a Trailer will give them a $130,000 reserve like they would get on PCAR market. So this guy is painting himself into a corner, and looking at the result versus the buy it now price is a joke. Almost as cartoonishly laughable as the fender flares. And again, I like a modded car, but this car doesn't look like it was designed for performance or racetrack lap times, which is what appeals to me because I love apexes and motorsport and all that stuff. This car looks like it was done to be, look at me. To me, it has RWB sensibility, even though the performance is probably there. But like Rami said, the wider track and the turbos, this car should turn a faster lap. But it doesn't look like lap times were the intention. It looks like ego was, and that's why I laugh at this car.
Well, but I mean, look at RWBs. We can have the conversation. We laugh at the look
I
of
agree
RWBs
with you.
all
That's
the time.
why RWB is the standard for this. Like
but
that's
you know,
joke.
RWB brings a lot of extra money, and RWB water pumper cars are bringing extra money too. They're doing RWB body kits. I mean, that's the thing. It's like the Liberty Walk kit is a well-known kit. So I'm actually very surprised you haven't heard of it. I'm not criticizing you for not, but it does surprise me that it hasn't made its way to your little delicate little pearl clutched sensibilities. But yeah, no tariffs being applied to Liberty Walk body kits. I'm sure the demand for those are definitely going down. All right, let us know what you think of the results of this Liberty Walk 997, and let's get to the next car. What do we got?
Brian Anthony's buddy was selling his 1953 Ford F100 with a 5-speed and a 289 matte black car on steely wheels, JP, with the demon drop. This car's got a bad to the bone look. Nice photos, by the way. I think this car was pretty well presented for what it is. I would be very happy if most of my presentations were as good as this one. I just want to do a little tip of the cap to whoever went out of their way to get these shots. They're not the greatest, but I've seen a lot worse. And so I anyway, not bad. JP, I was shocked to find out that 53 F100s bring, on average, according to Classic.com, $60,400. I thought our car had a chance to get to $28,000. JP, you thought 25 would be all that it would take. And Rami split the difference between us at 27.5. Rami won one, JP. Our car hammered for $26,750 where it sold on 36 bids. Have we heard back from Brian Anthony's buddy, or Brian Anthony about his buddy? Are they happy with that result? The car sold. Congratulations.
Yeah, he reached out and said thanks for talking about it, but he didn't say whether or not he was happy with the result. So be curious to see. It would have been nice to know. Maybe he's watching tonight.
Yeah, Brian Anthony, on behalf of the Bid Nerds, you're welcome. We get all the credit. I mean, obviously. No, just kidding. But well done.
He only missed that one by $750. That's pretty good.
It's right there.
Right on. Yeah. All right, guys. I think cars like that. I mean, look, no one's making stuff like this anymore, and I think that even though we talk about how the classic car market is mostly driven by people who have disposable income, in basically their station in life. Their kids are out of college, their houses are paid for, and they're in their top earning years. So those are whatever, if that's, call it 50-year-old guys, give or take 5 years, they're the ones that are out really driving the classic car market. They're buying the cars that they wanted when they were in their 20s or teens, and they couldn't afford those cars. This car, I think, this is definitely boomer. If you wanted this thing, you have to be in your 60s or 70s or 80s if you were in your 20s, in the 50s. So, but I think there's something about any vehicle that is analog like this, anything that's got a stick, anything with 3 pedals, anything that you can shove a big engine in and just look cool and not have all the electronic gizmos all over it. I think that the appeal of vehicles like this and stuff like this is going to continue to appreciate, and because you're just not importing this from anywhere in the world. No one's making anything like this anymore. So you don't have to worry about, BYD from China making something like this. They're going to copy Teslas, or they're going to copy BMW X5s or Hyundai, SUVs or something like that. Nobody's copying this thing. So I think there's only going to be fewer and fewer of these, and I think the demand will continue to go up.
You want to hear a funny take on that car right there, JP?
Sure.
Stuff like that is so American and so Western and doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. Like they just sold that car for, what would we say, $26,000 or something. If you took that car to England or Germany or Shanghai, you'd get 2.5 times. You'd get that. You can sell that car for 60, $70,000 easy if you
I don't
exported
agree
it.
with you. I think it's like literally hundreds of thousands of dollars because and you would have to because unlike America, they do have tariffs and import costs.
Well, they do.
Import fees.
I understand that, but I'm saying the retail number for the car could be twice what it's worth here is my point. And then if you do bring it in at that price, you pay 100% tax. Yeah. So 60 will cost you 120, but they'll pay for but they'll pay that because they don't have anything like that. And here they're soft and we're throwing them away. The kids don't want their grandpa's or their dad's cars. It's hilarious. But those cars, there's a big demand for those off our shores. And it's just ironic, I thought.
Well, there it is. There's the report. Says his buddy Jason is very happy with the sale on his 54. So that's great. That's good news.
Bid Nerds Mojo.
Tell him it was all because of Bid Nerds, and we'll take a check. Just write the check to Bid Nerds or DP. That'll work. All right. Guys. Let's hear. Were there any other cars that we made prediction on? Did we have one more, or was that it?
Go to commercial.
Oh, we're going to commercial. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere, guys. Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden. This guy. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. Hey guys, you're probably looking at your watch and wondering if Bid Nerds will ever end. So you better talk to our friends at Our Smiths to make sure your Rolex, Tag Heuer, AP, or any fine timepiece is in tip-top shape. Our Smiths, fine Swiss repair. All right, look at that. I am looking at my Aviero watch. It's not even mine. We're going to give it away in 2025. We got a pretty cool plan for that.
We should rename that watch the Yahtzee.
The Yahtzee watch. Yeah. We get Anthony to put a Yahtzee.
Matches my hat.
Pretty dope.
Matches my hat. Yeah, let's go.
Love it. I like what Anthony said before the break, and we agree that BAT is for confident sellers. PCAR is for questionable and less desirable cars, and Cars and Bids is basically sells the best FB marketplace cars. I think it's a pretty good take on all three there.
Yeah, that's a Yahtzee.
You know, it is kind of interesting because we're seeing a lot of the like odd stuff and weird stuff seems to be selling pretty well. So I am really surprised by that Liberty Walk thing. I know we're going back to it. But, you know, slant noses have been doing good, 930. It seems like most of the stuff that's on the market right now is really kind of run of the mill. So when you get something that's different, seems to do okay. But this one on PCAR market, not so much. But I'm with you, Deeb. It was probably because the reserve was too high. Okay. All right. The big question tonight is, will tariffs affect the classic car market? We have a list of cars that I think you guys are going to like tonight. Let's get to it. Let's make some predictions. And before we do that, make sure everyone who is watching, make sure you hit the thumbs up. And if you are new to the show, if this is the first time you've ever watched Bid Nerds, or maybe you're someone who's been lurking, you've been watching for a while, but you've never introduced yourself in the comment section, please do so tonight. Make some friends. You're going to meet some really good people there in the Nerd Herd. That's the best value of Bid Nerds. It's not me and this guy. It's really the folks that you'll meet in the chat. So thanks again for everyone hanging out with us on a Sunday night. All right, let's make some predictions. What's the first car on the list, Michael Deeb? What do you got?
All right, JP, our buddy Sebastian Hassel, who used to have that beautiful M470 turbo look. Sebastian has a 1994 Speedster right now, and he selected for tonight's show another 1994 Porsche 911 Speedster that you would not recognize. JP, this car is a premium listing on Bring a Trailer. The big news here is the rebuild of this car in Germany by a company called Evomax. Now, this car, JP, has an unbelievable provenance in that as it was originally constructed as a 1994 Porsche 911 Speedster, it was originally purchased by San Francisco Giant baseball player, Mr. Steroids himself, Barry Bonds. Barry, who has a boatload of money back in 1994, took the car and sent it to our good friends, JP, at Strosek. So, imagine 936 Speedsters produced between 92 and 94. Just 427 of them were imported to the U.S. market. Barry Bonds buys one and decides to chop it into little pieces by sending the car to tuner Vittorio Strosek. And then the car was a Strosek Speedster with a 3.8-liter OnDL motor in it. And then he sold the car, and in 2021, the new owner of the Strosek Speedster subsequently sent the car to Germany and had the car completely redone by the company Evomax. Now the car has a carbon Kevlar bodywork, custom white leather, and it's finished in the, I think, very attractive color of Mysian blue, and the car looks awesome. So it still has the 3.8 from Ondial, which I imagine is probably a legit 350 horsepower motor. And then it's got KW coilovers, staggered width, beautiful 18-inch wheels, and Porsche big reds all the way around. I mean, this car's got all the stuff, JP. I mean, this is a really cool car. And what's hilarious is the original car was cool. The Strosek car was cool, and this car is cool. I don't know why, but I'm kind of digging it. JP, what's the name of that company that JP or Rami almost bought a car from when it was in Monterey? Remember, he almost bought the orange turbo. Who makes these 964s? Not Singer, the other guys.
Oh, no, you're talking about, they don't make 964s, they make 993s. You're talking about, yeah, and I'm totally spacing them too.
What's the name? They do total carbon bodies, and they I can't think of their name.
It's right there in front of me. Yeah.
So, John, when I look at this car, that guy's car is who I think of first, just based on a little bit of the shape and the silhouette of the car. Something about the proportion reminds me of the cars that we're thinking of. But if you really take the time to look, this car has a lot of interesting details that are uniquely their own. And congratulations to Evomax. As far as people that are reimagining Porsches, I think this is as original and as attractive. And if you're going to make a statement, like kind of, as they say, the kids say, flex with your wallet, this looks like somebody spent $500,000 rebuilding this car. And the car looks really cool. It looks expensive. You know, the Strosek, I don't think would, maybe convey the same amount of effort put into it, if that makes any sense. So I kind of like what I see. I appreciate what I see. I think the car is attractive. And there's, like I said, this car has a really weird but fascinating provenance. And so the big question, JP, is this car going to achieve a retail number? And like, what did the guy pay for Bonds' Strosek Speedster? And then thus, what did he pay shipping it to Germany, paying for this complete rebuild, and then bringing it back to market? Like, I just don't think that whatever he's invested in this is going to happen at Hammer, even on Bring a Trailer as a premium listing. I think they're going to have to make a deal post Hammer is what I'm predicting. So JP, I shove all of this, and it's a mouthful of things, over to you. What do you think of the provenance? Fancy baseball player Strosek build, which would be a cool Radwood Youngtimer car, but now it's the cutting edge. It looks like one of the new kids on the block with the Evomax build. And do you like what Evomax presents here? So talk to me, John. What are your musings on this car that Sebastian picked for us? Because there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, I think it's a great pick on Sebastian's part, but I don't really like the sensibilities of this car. The car we were trying to think of is Gunther Works. I don't know why both of us were having such a hard time with that. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I know. We need to have a pit bull named Gunther, and then we'll never forget again. Yeah.
Well, and this is what the Gunther Work looked like. So
what do you think, people? Was I right or was I wrong? Did they look the same or no? What do you think, JP?
No, they don't. So I think both of them kind of have it wrong, and they both really bug me. I don't like Gunther Work cars. Let me rephrase that. I really like Gunther Work cars in the sense that I like the amount of work that goes into them, and I like the performance. I mean, I've never driven one, but every indication is that they are absolutely insane. Mentioned the slogan of Singer. It's like Porsche reimagined. I remember when Gunther Works was introduced for the first time, it was at Works Reunion in Monterey. You and I were there, and they had the Gunther Works guys out there, and they're like, we reimagined Porsches. It's like, wait, what? You guys couldn't come up with your own goddamn slogan? I was so disappointed by those guys.
Yeah. Why don't you reimagine your marketing?
But the thing about Gunther Works is Gunther Works' their brand position is, well, let's back up. Singer's whole deal is Porsche reimagined. So they want to make a Porsche which is an amalgamation of the best of everything. from different periods. So their cars are backdated. They take a 964 and they backdate it and they widen it and they put the better components and all the technology. Whereas Gunther Werks' whole ideology is that our cars, this is the Gunther Werks car again, if Porsche still made air-cooled cars, this is what they would look like today, right? So the nose of this car, you can tell, is a 993. It has the 993
I see it now.
and the slant to the headlights and all that kind of stuff. I don't really like the sensibilities of this car, but that's just me. And I love convertibles. I love speedsters and stuff like that. And I would love to have one of these, but they'll never get my money, even if I had enough to do it. This particular car, this Evomax, all right, an interesting approach. It's definitely more traditional, much closer to what Porsche, has made in the past. But
under the headlights looks like a long hood, and the Fuchs is kind of cool. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Deep. I mean, you had your whole chance to talk about the car, and when I was just about to say that, you're interrupting me. That's my whole point. Yes, the front of this car. It's like my whole thing is pick a lane. Euromax. Are you going to be a backdate car? Because above the belt line on the hood is all backdate 60s look, right? And then below the belt line is that straked air intake that is reminiscent of the new GT3s and the new kind of the boxy front end of the 992s. And I think they don't work well together. You either have to go classic or you got to go forward. This trying to smash the two things. These are two great tastes that are not tasting great together. I bet this car performs really well. And here's the thing, as ugly as I actually think this car is, it's still way better than an actual Strosek, because that is an ugly car, guys. And I love, once again, Speedsters are my favorite 911 of all time. But yeah, I mean, if you get a Strosek 911 does not bring big money. This sensibility, this design style did not age well. The Stroseks, look at the big thing that people like. I've seen Stroseks in the past, and I've considered buying them going, okay, can we make this? How hard would it be to bring this poor car back to a stock, 964 Speedster? And the problem is, look at the fender, guys. I've got the cursor. I don't know if you guys can notice it, but here it is. You've got this silly front light, but this is all one piece. You go all the way up the fender and then down behind the front wheel. Look at that. There's no seam. On a normal light 911, you could take the fender off, but it is attached across the rocker panel and then all the way up and over the back, right? And you've got this weird air intake back here. There's no way to easily return this back to a normal. You're cutting things, and once you start cutting things, you're in trouble. And then this whole front bumper, it's all kind of rounded out to a further point. It's just an awful design sensibility. I know I've hardly talked about the Euromax at all, but I don't know. Evomax. Sorry, Evomax, Euromax. Max not going to buy it. All right, what's this guy? I would definitely way rather have Sebastian's stock 964 Speedster than any one of these variants. They're all silly to me. What's this car going to bring? Is it going to bring anything? Everyone agrees with me that they hate it, right? Everyone in the neighborhood's with me? Yeah.
All right, JP. So according to Classic.com, a 1994 Porsche 911 Speedster, just a basic car, the average selling price of those cars in the secondary market is currently $201,200. So basically $200,000. JP, our car is currently sitting at $275 as a premium listing. So this thing's been up for 10 days or more, but it's got 2 days left until it closes. Basically, I think on Tuesday, JP, we'll get to watch this one close. But that $275,000, John, has come by way of 19 bids. So the car has got some action. The question is, and I think, let me just read something because I think this is really important. Yeah. So according to the listing, the car is located in San Clemente, California, and it's an American VIN. So this should be pretty straightforward. So John, our car's at $275. It closes in 2 days. Again, I don't know what an Evomax costs. I don't know what they paid for the Strosek car with Bonds' name on the title. Initially, JP, I put $400,000. I'm just going to raise my bid a little bit because the car does have action, but I think retail on this is going to need to be to make this guy whole. I'm thinking he's over $500,000. But John, I'm going to go $450,000, and I don't know if it sells for that number. It's anybody's guess how wild they might have invested in this car or what they're thinking it should bring. But 450 to you, if it gets to my number, 50-50 if it sells at that. I think they're looking for more than $500,000, but who knows, JP? Where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, singers are definitely going for $1 million or more.
Yeah, and what does the used Gunther work cost?
Yeah, used Gunther works are definitely in that same price range. I think the performance of this car is definitely up there with those cars with the 3.8, or at least I guess, I don't know, with an NL engine and how fresh it is. God, I keep looking at this car, and the more I look at it, the more it pisses me off. It's like the side profile. Okay, so you've got those you've got the long hood, old 60s style lights, and you've got the modern headlights and the modern strakes. Then you got the modern rocker panel, and then you get to the back of the car, and you have 964 rear taillights. Why wouldn't, if you're going to go with the 60s style backdate front headlights, why wouldn't you go with it, the 60s style rear taillights like our group lights or something? This car just can't figure it out, and it makes me angry. And the fact that someone's going to pay a whole bunch of money for it is just, once again, means people are just dumb. What was your number again?
450 to you, JP. It's at 275 with 2 days to go.
399,964 is my guess. I think this thing stalls out. I think this guy is in for a world of hurt. I think they spent too much money on it. And Evomax, Dude, I've never heard of an Evomax. I like that Randy was saying that he saw people walking by it, or one of these at maybe it was Works Arena or something.
The Quail?
People were laughing at it, and if I saw this car in real life, I would be like, "Come on, man! What do you just stop trying to be Singer, guys? Just stop! Just." It drives me out of my. All right, what do you guys think this Evomax will bring? Let us know in the comments, and let's make some more predictions. What's next on the list, Michael Deeb?
All right, JP. Also on Bring a Trailer is a 2022 Audi RS6 Avant that is currently listed out of New Canaan, Connecticut, showing 13,000 miles on the odometer. JP, as much as I think I know new cars, I just don't pay attention. They don't really interest me that much. But did you know that this 4-liter V8 with 2 turbos, did you know that it was a mild hybrid? I had no idea this car had hybrid technology in it at all. That was like, read that for the first time, and I tilted my head like, oh, somehow I missed that. But JP, it all works because this all-wheel drive Uber Avant makes some serious power. Boy, oh boy, JP, let me wake you up with 590 horsepower as well as 590 pound-foot of torque. And if you're willing to break the conditions of your warranty, our friends at Carbon, which is Steve Dinan's new thing up in Denver, Colorado, will put a kit on this thing for you. And you can adjust 700 to 800 horsepower to the tires. And these cars, they love to be modded, and they are unbelievably fast. But they're new cars. They kind of lack a soul. I like the practicality of an Audi wagon. I don't think the car is ugly. I think the wheels are ugly, but the car itself doesn't bother me. I like the silhouette of it. And I'm kind of a fanboy of performance wagons, and this car is just about the only one left that you can buy in the American marketplace. So these cars are kind of cool. Now, somebody, JP, paid at Sticker a couple of years ago $129,000 for this car. The big question is, what do they bring in the secondary market? How soft are these new cars with a pretty average presentation on the big website? I think this car could also do well on Doug DeVero's site, but I don't hate it on BAT either. There's a lot of performance guys that want this as their daily, with a 911 or a Gallardo in the garage. This is your daily, especially if you have kids or a dog. So, JP, tell us why you picked this car for tonight.
Well, I mean, we started out the conversation about tariffs, and I think this is the kind of car that will absolutely be affected by tariffs. I think that kind of like during when the COVID lockdowns happened, we saw a decrease in the amount of cars that came into the country because everyone stopped making cars. So there was a big shortage of foreign cars. There's a shortage of all cars, right? So if there are tariffs coming, another big problem with the whole tariff thing is that the costs not only to import cars will go up, but the cost for manufacturers of cars to buy components will go up. And so at what point in in the supply chain does that start to affect the prices of cars that actually make it here, right? So, sure, this might be a German car and there may not be tariffs on German cars, but there might be tariffs on Chinese components that will wind up. There's a ton of Chinese stuff in this car, right? Just about every car has chips and components from all over the world. No car is really made in one country anymore. Everything, it's like you've got engines and powertrains and electronics and all these gizmos. So this particular car, being a German car, being a very high-tech car, being a car that has hybrid technology and this thing is just a mess, right? I think that we're going to see a decrease in the amount of cars that are imported from all over the world. I think what's going to happen is that rather than the American versions of Audi, so Vagcom, the Audi America buying this car from Audi AG, right? Rather than saying, all right, let's import a bunch of cars and then distribute them to our dealerships. I think what's going to happen is that they're just going to take orders. They're going to say, all right, we're only going to bring it in if somebody buys it before we even make the damn thing. Right. So for the people who are willing to pay the premium for cars like this, which there will be, they won't care that the price is going to go way, way up. They just want that car because the supply is going to go down. I think the value of used ones is probably going to go up a little bit because it's going to be a lot harder to get an RS6 in the future, right? But will that create what cars does America make that are going to compete with this? Honestly, it's Teslas and it's Rivians. I think this is going to drive these types of tariffs will probably drive more people into EV cars that are local, but that's a whole other conversation. So what do you think this thing's going to bring? We're getting really low on time. So what do you think?
And I'm going to present you with the Cadillac CTS-V, JP, as the car that might compete
those?
with this. Yeah. I don't know if they make a wagon anymore, but they still make a sedan that is, your M5, RS6, AMG kind of alternative that's American that may, if they keep building that car, could have a tactical advantage in the marketplace. JP, our car is currently sitting at $83,500 and it closes in 2 days. According to Classic.com, these cars typically bring $111,000 in the secondary market, which is pretty strong against $130,000 MSRP. But John, this car's got some miles on it. It's the dead of winter. I don't think it's a good time to sell it. At 83, JP, I think the car's going to hammer for just $106,000, 5 short of the average. Where are you at on your bid?
I'm sorry, what was your number?
106.
Yeah, I'm going to go 99 and say it stalls out. There's another one for sale over on Cars and Bids, too. This purple one. Do you guys like this one better? I don't know. Where's it sitting at? It's already at $90,000, 2 days to go, and this one has 20,000 miles on it.
More miles, and it's at more money on Cars and Bids. JP, I like the Nardo gray of our car. I mean, don't get me wrong, the purple's cool. I bet Sahan would dig it, but I'm digging that Nardo gray. I really like it, especially with the tan interior. That's an unusual colorway. I like the way it's done. And speaking of gray and tan, JP, let's jump right over to the 1983 Jeep CJ7 that currently resides with a 304 V8 under 304 cubic inch V8 under the hood. This is a no reserve listing that closes tomorrow on Bring a Trailer out of Gulfport, Mississippi. The car is showing 140,000 miles. It doesn't say TMU, but I'm just going to throw that out there. But JP, this is the same colorway as our RS6 Avant. Here's your 2-car solution, John.
Yeah.
A really pretty flat gray with tan seats and black wheels. I am digging these 2 cars back to back, and I might be the only one. John, there was one comment I read, and it turned out to be pretty telling. But the gist of it is this, and I'm going to read this, and I'll hand it right back to you. Somebody commented that they ran the VIN and found out that this car was originally equipped with a 258 cubic inch 6-cylinder, and it originally came with a 5-speed manual. The car has since had this V8 dropped under the hood, and they switched it to a 3-speed automatic. The seller responded saying, "Great observation. I also just did a VIN decode and found the same information." But I think you get busted when somebody calls it and then you respond like that. Like, I'm not buying the seller's thing. I think this guy called him out and he's trying to be like, "Oh yeah, I just saw the same thing." You got to disclose up front, or I think you lose credibility as a seller. What else are you failing to disclose is the first thing that comes to mind. But of course, we're in this space, JP. We're sitting here going fine-tooth comb. I'd like to know from the herd if they would read the order of that the same way I did. To me, the seller got busted, even though he answered it. I'm not buying. But anyway, JP, no reserve, cool car. Talk to us before we close.
Yeah, I don't know if it really matters so much on this car. If it were a 911 or something more collectible, that might be an error. A V8
fair.
on this car, I don't see as an upgrade. I'd rather have the 258 with the 5-speed. That straight 6 is like bulletproof. That V8 is a gas guzzler, and with an automatic, oof. Anyways, look, World War III is about to begin. We've got all the drones flying around.
There's JP. Merry Christmas,
flying
everybody.
around in New Jersey looking for nukes. The government is trying to find radiological scoping out, trying to find out, the end of the world. And, if there's going to be an EMP dropped on the world, if you've got that RS6, or if you've got that Evomax, or if you've got that your Tesla or whatever, those cars are going to be worthless because they've got chips all over them. The tariffs are going to make them too expensive to repair. This car has 0 computer chips. This car, you could put a piece of lead on the battery and the EMP could happen and you could still drive this thing because just replace the points. You'll be good to go. This is an apocalypse car. This is a tariff-proof car. All the parts are made in America. There's nothing original about this thing, so it's really not collectible. It's just a cool CJ7. I love it. I'm bullish on it. What do you think it's going to bring, Deeb?
All right, JP. According to our friends at Classic.com, a 83, which is the last year of this generation, CJ7 is a $23,400 car. Our car is currently sitting at $10,750, and it closes tomorrow. It is running no reserve, John, so the car will sell. My bid is $17,000, and that's what's going to take to wing it home. Do you think, JP, that this car will break 20?
Yeah, I do. I think that this thing's done so well. Anthony's saying that the people like the 304 is better. I don't know. I don't. I've owned both, and I think the 304, especially with an automatic, is just terrible. But it's still fun. Who cares? Doesn't matter. This isn't a sports car. You're not worried about how fast it shifts. You're not worried if it's clunky. But yeah, this is a good refresh to the car. It's not I wouldn't call this a restoration. I would just say it's just a refresh of the car. They repainted it, put a new powertrain in it. These are very reliable in any configuration, and as long as you get rid of the original carburetor, you're good to go. So yeah, I think people like stuff like this. I think I'm going to go $19,007. I don't know if it's going to break 20, but it's going to get really close. There's a lot of these on the market, but they have to
you could always find one. You could find one regionally to you, right? Wouldn't that make more sense?
Yeah.
Sorry, John.
And the thing is, no, you're right. And they have to, like, if it were original or if it were a restoration, if it had like Renegade down the side and the cool, Sundowner graphics and stuff like that, then they can start to bring $25,000, $30,000. But something like this is just very utilitarian, great way to get into the rig, have the fun, and have it look good too. Anyways, let us know what you guys think. We are at the end of the show. Speaking of World War III and the destruction of cars, we're going to take it out with Rami having a little fun with a 914. We hope to see you guys back joining us live on Wednesday. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We love you guys. Thanks, Michael Deeb. We'll see you guys Wednesday. Here we go.
Go.